Hey, Aaron Adams, founder and CEO of Alpine Capital Solutions. For the last 25 years, I've been a full-time real estate investor. I started on this investing journey as a high school teacher. And the first year that I was doing real estate deals, I made $50,000. The second year, I made $170,000. That third year, I made over $300,000, and I was still scared about quitting my teaching job. My teaching job was security. I mean, I knew that after 20 years in that high school district, I was going to make $8,000 a month for life with healthcare and a pension. And I was worried that maybe I had just gotten lucky with real estate. And so I had this vision of what I wanted to do, but fear was holding me back. And so what I want to break down for you today, there are 7 things that I think every employee needs to know before they quit to become a business owner. There's 7 things that I wish I would have understood before I quit my job. And so if you have been someone that you want to fire your boss, you want to move from a W-2 to being the business owner, that you've had an idea on a way to make money, whether it's real estate or any business. I get this question all the time. After 25 years, I have over 120 LLCs. So I feel like I've really figured out what it takes to own a business. And so the next 10 minutes are to break down for you everything that I've learned in order to fire your boss. Let's call it that. So the first thing that I want you to know and understand is you need to learn what an LLC is. Maybe you've heard LLC, maybe you know it's business, maybe you think corporation. A lot of times people say it's a limited liability corporation. That's not what it is. It's a company. Every business has an LLC of some kind. Maybe it's the LLC that owns the business, maybe it owns the building, maybe it owns the product. You have to have an LLC. You're like, where do I get that? It's not from a Google search. You need to work with a firm, a law firm that can help you create it, keep it legal, and advise you the exact structure. Now, along that same line, you may need a C Corp, okay, but you have to have a business. You can't do a business in your own name. If you don't understand this, homework assignment, first thing you need to know, first thing you need to do, the purpose of this isn't to educate you on all aspects of these 7 items, but it's to give you a 35,000-foot view on how to make this work. Now, the second one is, and this was something that my wife and I were guilty of, is no more TurboTax, okay? TurboTax is what employees use. TurboTax is for losers, okay? You need a real CPA. You need a real firm. Now you may say, Aaron, I have a tax guy. It's my dad's buddy. They golf together. Okay, cool. Slow clap. Not the same. I work with a tax professional that asks me how much I want to pay a year. Okay, your dad's buddy that's a CPA tells you how much you owe. Good tax professionals, they work backwards from how aggressive you want to be. Our president, Donald Trump, for like 20 years said, I want to pay 0. Every year, do my taxes, be aggressive, I want to pay 0. That was his strategy. That's what he told his tax professionals. You want to have that kind of relationship. That's somebody and something you need to understand how to do, and you need that person in place before you start a business, okay? Notice that I'm not telling you to think about what the business is. That's something I'm assuming you've already thought about, okay? Maybe you want to be a wedding photographer. Maybe you want to open a donut shop. Maybe you want to detail cars. Again, slow clap. The reason that you're watching this video is because you've already thought about what business you want to do. I'm helping you with that next step. I'm assuming you've already envisioned a way to make $200,000 a year, okay? But if you don't check these boxes, there's a reason why 95% of small businesses fail. There's a reason why people go out on their own and then go back and get a job again. It's because they don't do these 7 things. Number 3, you have to know what a P&L and a balance sheet are. Now maybe you're like, Aaron, I've heard of those, but why would I need to know that? Because I can't tell you how many business owners that the way that they manage their money is they look at the balance in their business LLC checking account. They're like, oh, there's money in there. I can afford that. I've met business owners who offer a service, like they charge people for their time, that they sit down 1 year, 2 years, 3 years in, and they're like, I just realized that I'm actually only making about $6 an hour. When I go back and I look at my profit and loss, and when I add rent and utilities and labor and payroll and materials and all the things, I'm actually making less as a business owner than I was making as an employee. I'm better off going back and just getting a job again. If you don't know what a P&L is and you don't know how to read one, that will happen to you. It's something that I look at weekly in my businesses. All of my partners in all of the different real estate operations send me P&L updates every week, okay? Same with the balance sheet. You got to understand what a balance sheet is. It's how you make big picture decisions, because, you know, I have a project right now that it has a really bad P&L, but it's got an excellent balance sheet, so I'm cool with the business. And again, if you're like, all right, can you explain that? That's not, you know, that's not the purpose of this video. But again, something you have to learn from an accounting standpoint. Yeah, you have to have a CPA, but you also have to understand those things as well. Okay. Fourth thing I want you to think about is start a business that is unsexy. I don't even know if that's a word. Okay. Not sexy, unsexy. When you're thinking about a business, I want you to think of the whole landscape of the business, and then think of the thing that's like guaranteed money. One of the reasons that I've been doing property management for 25 years is because nobody wants to do property management. Nobody wants to take the phone calls for the maintenance on the weekend. Nobody wants to call a plumber out to snake a toilet. Nobody wants to screen tenants. Nobody wants to do a budget on a house that has bed bugs. I don't want to do those things either. Okay, but what I found was that as I got into real estate, as I transitioned from high school teacher to full-time real estate investor, that there's this hierarchy of real estate, and whatever business you're contemplating, there's this hierarchy of cool. Okay, but there's probably an area where you can make money, where you know there's guaranteed revenue, there's guaranteed business, and it's not what you really want to do. Okay, so let's say you want to do personal coaching, okay? And you don't want to do personal coaching for high school students. You want to do it with collegiate athletes, okay? But your list of collegiate athletes is few and far between. Or maybe you want to do it with professional athletes, like you want to be the trainer for the stars, okay? And but you know you could fill your whole schedule with high school kids. You know, I have a son who's a music major, and he would love to be accomplished enough that he could go on Broadway and get paid to do musicals, or go play for the symphony, or be a professional jazz musician. He would love that, but the reality is that he's not on a path to do that. He doesn't have that ability yet at 20 years old. And so he's contemplating, when he graduates, teaching piano lessons to little kids, because he can pay his bills. So I want you to think of the unsexy way to build your business as you're contemplating leaving your job, going out on your own. How can you tap the revenue stream that you know will keep you busy, even though that's not what you ultimately want to be doing? How do you find that unsexy way to create revenue? Because I'll tell you what is unsexy. It's having a P&L that's red. And red means you are in the red, losing money. Okay? And so a lot of people get kind of snobbish. Well, if I leave my job, then I have to be... You start to set all these constraints around what you want this to look like. When the reality is if you can't pay your light bill, all those like snobby constraints that you sent become meaningless. And maybe as you look at this list, you realize maybe your job is actually pretty good. Maybe you're living the life that you want to live, but maybe you shouldn't be thinking about leaving to begin with. If that's the case, then I've accomplished my purpose as well. Okay. Number 5 is when you're thinking about doing your business. This is called the 6-month 100%, 12-month 50% rule. Let's say you're like, hey, if things go well with this business, I'm going to make $100,000 over the next 12 months. I want your budget and your finances and your money to be in such a way that over the first 6 months of that business, you can reinvest 100% of those business profits back into the business. You're like, well, what's the purpose? Why do I want to quit my job? Because if your business isn't solid enough that you can afford, or you have enough savings, or you do it on the side while you keep your job, like do 2 jobs, which is what I did when I started out, then you're creating a massive amount of financial uncertainty for yourself by stepping away. So you have to figure out a plan that allows 100% of what you make in the first 6 months to go back in the business. I'm telling you, you're going to need it. You're going to need it for marketing. You're going to need it for materials. You're going to need it for that office space you got to sign. You're going to need it to pay that employee that you didn't think you're going to need. You have to figure out a way to put 100% back. And then months 7 through 12, you need to put 50%. Like you when you say, okay, so for 6 months I'm going to stay at my job, do this business. I'm going to work 18 hours a day. Okay, good. That's how wealthy people think. That's how they all started out, by grinding. Okay. Then the second month, or the second quarters 3 and quarters 4, the second half of the year, I want 50% of your business profits to go right back into the business. And forever after that, 25%. So you should never plan on spending more than 75% of what you make from your business on your bills. You should always be planning on 20. You're gonna have lawsuits, you're gonna have losses, you're gonna have things that you want to invest in to grow the business. And so as you do your budget, don't think, I can make $100,000 over the next 12 months. I'm going to start spending $10,000 a month. Don't think that way. You have to have a plan that allows you to be very careful with your money. Okay. Number 6 is, are you a project or a task person? Are you a project or a task person? Now, I find, I've had hundreds of employees over the last 25 years. I find that people tend to be really good at projects. You think big picture, you prioritize what needs to happen, you're able to multitask and work your way through a project, or you tend to be a task person. When you have the 20 things that you need to do today, you always get those done. And you're listening to this and you're like, okay, yeah, you're right, I am either or. And here's what I find is interesting. If you are a project person, you will hate a task-based workday. And if you are a task person and somebody just says, do these projects, you're going to have legit anxiety. And so what I want you to think about is, which one are you? And are you envisioning a partner in this business, or are you envisioning a boss? And if so, then you need to make sure they are not the one you are. So if you're a task person, you need a project person partner, or you need a project manager employee. If you're a project person, then you need a task type manager, task type employee. Okay, and so just figuring out which one you are becomes very critical, because as you bring in partners, or as you hire those first few employees, they will determine the success of your business. And you got to know what you are, so that you surround yourself with people who are not that way. Now, on the seventh one is kind of related, and it's along those same lines. I want you to think about whether you are a chief, a rainmaker, or a warrior. Now, everyone's like, you're like, what do you mean? Like Indian tribe, like Indian chief, rainmaker? Yes. So I always say that people tend to be either project or task. They also tend to be either rainmakers, warriors, or chiefs. And what does that mean? Well, in a business, your chiefs are your managers. So some of you just have good managerial skills. You're good with people. You're good with running a team. You're very stable. Okay. Some of you have chief skills. Some of you are more rainmakers. You're the entrepreneurs. You can raise money. You have all these ideas. You're good at starting the business. You work 80 hours a week. Okay. Your rainmaker skills are strong. Or you're a warrior. Like if you think about in a tribe of warriors as specialists, they go out and fight. They don't farm. They don't collect water from the creek. They literally their main job is a specific skill. You know, CPAs tend to be warriors for businesses. In-house legal counsel is a warrior. Sales is a warrior. And I meet a lot of people that are good at sales that want to be entrepreneurs, but they suck at everything else. And so they go out on their own and they're like, well, who's going to give me clients? And who's going to service the clients after I sell to them? And so they're like these one-trick pony warriors, and then they have no ability to run the whole operation. And so ideally, when you go out on your own, you're more of a rainmaker, ideally, okay? Or a warrior who wants to start small. So maybe, using that personal trainer for the stars example, that could be a warrior skill set where you know how to do personal training, but you don't need a whole team of people to grow your business. So if you're thinking about your business and you want to grow this business, you're envisioning 25, 50, 100 employees, then you got to figure out which one you are, so that the people that you bring on as employees and as partners, again, just like number 6, are complementary personalities for you. And so, guys, these 7 things I have found are things that people miss when they go to start a business. They're things that they weren't thinking about. They spend all their time thinking about how they're going to bring money in the door, and they don't think about these things. And so I wanted to break them down for you as someone who's started a lot of businesses, watched a lot of businesses fail, and who left a W-2 high school teaching job to start a real estate business, and someone who would never go back to it. I want you to understand and kind of have the curtain pulled back on my 25 years of experience. So hopefully that's been helpful. If this is interesting to you, click on the link below. Follow our YouTube channel, and we do monthly 3-day live events that we live stream. Hit us up and we'll get you information so you can join us for one of our 3-day trainings.